Good morning, children. Okay. So in the previous classes, we have seen about how the respiration is taking place in the plants. So in today's class, we'll see about the how the supply of oxygen is taking place in the roots. Okay, the root system. So first, we'll see aeration of the roots. Aeration means supply of oxygen. So how the oxygen being supplied to the roots in the case of the plants. So most in generally what happens so we have two cases here, general cases and exception cases. First, we'll see the general cases. In general cases, most plants they can aerate their roots by taking up the oxygen either through the lenticels. So, in the last class, I have shown you the lenticels on the stem, how the lenticels will take the oxygen, or through the surface of the root hairs. So, root hairs are also called as rootlets. Root hairs are also called as rootlets. So here you can see, okay, these are called rootlets. These are called root hairs or rootlets antavanmata. Okay, so these are called root hairs. So through these root hairs or through the lenticels on the stem, through the lenticels on the stem, so these plants they will take up the oxygen. So they have the separate, okay, separate system. So these how they take up the oxygen means because of the air spaces. There exist the air spaces in between the soil particles. So I has told you in the previous class, so how there is a connection between the air spaces and outside of the stomata. So there creates a concentration gradient. So because of that diffusion of concentration gradient, through the diffusion process they take up the oxygen. So this is in the case of normal cases. So how they take up the oxygen. Okay, so next in this case of special cases. So in the special cases, what happens means, special cases means, so those plants which are present in the waterlogged conditions. So waterlogged conditions. In that cases, they have developed a large air spaces. So that large air spaces, more when compared to the normal cases, they have more large air spaces, so that will connect the stem with the roots, so making by the diffusion process. So these plants, okay, they do the diffusion from the upper parts of, from the upper parts more efficient. So they have such a kind of mechanism, they can carry out the diffusion process from the upper parts with more efficiency. So that system, in that cases, they have different adaptation also. So that plants they have adaptation like a hollow stem. They maintain a hollow stem. Hollow means empty. They maintain an empty stem. So in these plants, if you want to see that that kind of plants, so when you are nearby these plants, they most usually live in the pond areas or marshy areas. Okay, which are, these plants are very close to the pond or marsh. So if you reach there, so you can cut some of the plants and you can observe their hollow stem when compared to the normal plants, when compared to the normal plants which are going in the normal soil. So the problem of that air difficulty, so some plants may survive because of the adaptation they have. Some plants they have been difficult for them, so those might die in the permanently in the water. Okay, then what kind of exception here means, this exception case we can see in the mangrove plants. So mangrove plants they usually grow in the tropical rainforest. We can see nearly in the forest areas or nearly nearby okay, river areas we can see these mangroves. So mangroves or the tropical rainforest, so these have the special mechanism. So these have the aerial roots. So the aerial roots will develop, okay, the roots will develop above the surface. You can see in the picture here. So you can see in the picture how the aerial roots are developed. So from so these aerial roots, they doesn't develop from the root system నుంచి develop అవ్వమంట. They develop from the stem. There is a connection between the stem and roots. So because of the presence of aerial roots, they are not completely submerged in the soil. So they are up above the soil. So these will carry out the diffusion from the upper parts. Okay, because of this presence of aerial roots, they can take in the oxygen through the roots. Okay, so this is about the exceptional cases how they carry out when they are in a situation of waterlogged condition. Okay, so next sir, activity. So here you can see an activity. So this activity, what this activity represents. So ఈ activity ని ఏం represent చేస్తుంది అంటే, so we had to this activity proves that whether respiration process is giving out carbon dioxide and heat. So okay, so respiration process లో కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్ అనేది రిలీజ్ అవుతుందా లేదా, సో ఎనర్జీ, సో ఎనర్జీ ఇన్ ద ఫార్మ్ ఆఫ్ హీట్, సో హీట్ ఎనర్జీ అనేది రిలీజ్ అవుతుందా లేదా, దట్ వీ క్యాన్ have the proof with this activity. So in this activity what we had to do means, okay, so we had to take a handful means a fist of either moong dal means green gram. Okay, so or bajra seeds, you can take bajra or bengal green seeds. So whatever the seeds, you can take a fist amount of it. Then we had to soak the seeds in a water. So మనం నార్మల్ గా మొలకెత్తిన విత్తనాలు తింటూ ఉంటాము. So just the same thing here also you had to follow in this experiment. Okay, so you had to soak the seeds. Soaking means, okay, నానబెట్టడం. Soaking means నానబెట్టడం. So you had to soak the seeds in water. So a day before you are starting the experiment. Okay, before the experiment, then you had to keep all the soaked seeds. నీళ్ళల్లో నానబెట్టిన తర్వాత ఆ సీడ్స్ అన్నిటిని యూ హ్యాడ్ టు ప్యాచ్ దమ్ ఇన్ ఏ క్లోత్ పౌచ్. యూ హ్యాడ్ టు ప్యాక్ ఇట్ విత్ ఏ క్లోత్ పౌచ్. సో ఒక క్లాత్ లో, సో యూ హ్యాడ్ టు టై ఇట్ విత్ ఎ స్ట్రింగ్ tightly. So then what happens, you had to leave it in a corner of your classroom or in your home. Then what happens means, these soaked seeds, they start germinating. So it require at least 1 day for germination. Okay, so then you had to collect in the next day of all the sprouted or germinating seeds, and you had to place them in a 200 ml capacity of a plastic bottle or glass bottle. So like this you had to take them in a okay, so you had to take them in a flask or in a bottle. So you had to take them, that sprouted seeds or germinating seeds, in a glass bottle or plastic bottle. So you had to take a beaker, a small beaker. Okay, you had to take a small beaker and you had to fill it with 3/4 with a lime water, 3/4 with a lime water, and insert that beaker in that glass bottle or plastic bottle. So next slide, sir. So next page. Okay, sir. Okay. So here, so in the you had to close that okay, after inserting that beaker in the bottle, you had to close the plastic bottle or glass bottle. So then you had to make a similar set. So alanti the duplicate, you had to one more copy you had to prepare. So that that bottle, that make a similar set means same like that, but it should not be the sprouted seed or germinating seeds. Same like fist of moongram seeds you had to take, and you had to place it in the plastic bottle or uh, glass bottle. Okay, so unsprouted seeds, unsprouted means there should not be any germination or any sprouts. So okay, fist of okay, fist of Bengal gram seeds kani, mung dal seeds kani, you had to place that in a plastic bottle or glass bottle, just like similar. But what is the difference here means those are sprouted seeds, these are unsprouted seeds. Okay, so like that you had to maintain two cases. Okay, now you had to keep the set undisturbed for 1 or 2 days. So both sets you had to keep aside for 1 or 2 days. Then what changes you had to observe in this meantime means you had to observe in which case the lime water is changing faster. We have seen in the previous experiments that so whenever the carbon dioxide passes through the lime water, it changes into milky condition. So the same thing you had to observe in both cases, in which case the lime water is changing faster. So that is the thing in the activity 3. So in the activity 4, what we had to observe means you had to take the same sprouted seed in a thermo flask. Here, what you had to do means instead of lid, you had to prepare a cork with a hole to dip the thermometer. Okay, to insert the thermometer. So you had to insert the thermometer. Sir, previous slide, sir. So you had to insert the thermometer. You had to see, you had to take care of that. So that thermometer bulb should be, should touch the sprouts, should deep into the sprouts. Okay, so this you had to do. So then you had to close the flask with the same tight fitting cork. Here, what you had to observe, you had to check the temperature for at least 2 hours, and you're advised that so this you can continue up to 24 hours. So here what you had to observe means you had to observe the temperature rising in the thermometer. Okay, so you had to make a graph. So carbon dioxide, okay, so temperature increase. Okay, so in the duration of time ki temperature increase avutundi. Okay, respiration. So one side you had to observe the temperature increase, and one side you had to observe the temperature decrease. So one side you had to maintain the so in the x-axis you had to maintain. So like this you had to draw. So in this you can carry out the respiration. Okay, so here you can increase in the temperature. So like this you can get a graph. Okay, so you had to maintain a graph by your observations. 2 hours ki enta temperature increase avutundi. So whether that temperature is increasing suddenly or steadily means uniformly, or it is increasing suddenly. So that changes whether heat is releasing or not. Okay, so that things you had to observe in the case of activity 4. Okay, so next we will see so what are the differences between the photosynthesis and respiration. This is the last of the chapter. So we know about photosynthesis in the first chapter of the nutrition. We have seen photosynthesis. So in the photosynthesis what we have seen, photosynthesis is a complicated process. It involves many intermediate steps. In the photosynthesis, the plants will make their own food by utilizing the light, by utilizing the sunlight, then carbon dioxide being taken up by the plants, and they can prepare their own food. So that is a constructive process where the synthesis of food is taking place. You can see in the picture here. So you can see in the picture here. So this is the equation. So we have seen that, okay, the plant's 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O gives rise to C6H12O6 plus, okay, 6 O2 plus 12 H2O. So the photosynthesis formula, we know that 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O gives rise to C6H12O6 plus 6O2 plus 12H2O2. So this is endothermic reaction. This is endothermic means it is absorbing the energy. It is get okay. So it is utilizing the energy. దీనికి ఎక్కడి నుంచి ఎనర్జీ వస్తుంది? So it is getting the energy from the sunlight. It is making use of the energy from the sunlight. It is an endothermic reaction. It is an anabolic process. Anabolic means constructive pathway. Here construction of glucose is taking place, construction of the or synthesis of the sugar or other starch or some other carbohydrates is taking place in the plants. So this is what we call photosynthesis. Okay, so next coming to the respiration. So whatever here it is, okay. So whatever the thing is produced in the photosynthesis, that being utilized in the case of respiration. So in the respiration, so respiration means immediately what we got a thought. So it is exchange of gases, but it is not only the exchange of gases. Exchange of gases means so taking up the oxygen, giving out of the carbon dioxide. But this is only not the respiration. So this is not only the exchange of gases, it includes that. So it also involves the breakdown of bonds present in the food molecules. So glucose molecules లో ఉన్న bonds అనేవి break అయిపోవడం వల్ల okay, in the respiration the energy will be released, and that energy will be used for all the life processes which are taking place in the plants or animals. Okay, next slide, sir. Next slide, sir. Okay, so so whatever photosynthesis, so our energy ni it can be stored either chemical or potential energy. Whenever necessary the bonds will be broken. So photosynthesis to store అయిపోయిన energy that can be released in the case of respiration. Okay, so respiration will release the energy, okay, for all the life processes. Though photosynthesis and respiration they appear in opposite reactions. So photosynthesis ante enti, okay, so 6CO2 plus 6, okay, 6H2 gives rise to, okay, C6H12O6 plus 6O2 plus 12H2O. Okay, so this is the photosynthesis. 6CO2 plus 6H2O gives rise to C6H12O6 plus 6O2 plus 12H2. So respiration లో ఏమవుతుంది? So in the case of respiration, again C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gives rise to 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. So here what is happening? So photosynthesis లో ఏ ఫుడ్ మాలిక్యూల్ అయితే ఫామ్ అయి ఉంటుందో that food molecule can be utilized in the case of respiration. In the respiration they take up the oxygen. In the presence of oxygen the glucose molecule can be broken down into 6CO2 plus 6H2O to release the energy. This is used for the life processes. As it is releasing the energy, as there is breakdown of the food molecules, so this is called catabolic process. దీన్ని catabolic process అంటాం. Catabolism means breaking of bonds, breaking of bonds in the food molecules. So organic molecules like glucose. So glucose molecule lo bonds అనేవి break అవ్వడం వల్ల, so we are it is releasing the energy. As it is releasing the energy, it is called exothermic reaction అంటాం. హీట్ ఎనర్జీ అనేది రిలీజ్ అవుతుంది కాబట్టి it is called exothermic reaction. Okay, so the photosynthesis, it takes place in the chloroplast, whereas respiration, cellular respiration, where the cells are releasing the energy by breaking the food molecules, so that food molecules can be burned and the chemical energy is used to function at cellular level. So this, okay, so this is takes, okay, photosynthesis is taking place in the chloroplast, whereas cellular respiration is taking place in the cytoplasm and mitochondria in the case of eukaryotes like plants and animals. Okay, so in the case of okay, so here the rate of photosynthesis is higher in than the respiration during the daytime. So why there is okay, why the rate of photosynthesis is higher in the plants during the daytime when compared to the respiration means, in the morning, in the daylight, there is a more, okay, availability of more sunlight and the carbon dioxide levels. That is why the rate of photosynthesis is higher during the daytime when compared to the respiration. The same reverse, the rate of respiration is, okay, higher during the night time compared to the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, so then what factors will affect the rate of photosynthesis means temperature, light intensity. Okay, availability of light is the prime requisite for the light reaction to take place in the photosynthesis. At the same time, temperature also, okay, temperature, humidity, the amount of water content, so all these will affect the ratio of photosynthesis and respiration in plants. Okay, so you have to keep in mind the carbon dioxide concentration will not affect the rate of the photosynthesis. Okay, so this is all about the entire chapter. Okay, సార్ పిక్చర్స్ ప్లేస్ చేయండి సార్, మీకు కొన్ని ఇమేజెస్ పంపించాను కదా, ఆ పిక్చర్స్ ప్లేస్ చేయండి సార్, వన్ బై వన్.
మేడం ఓకే మేడం, ఒక్క సెకండ్.
Plants, so there is the connection between the root and stem. So these roots, they are not completely submerged, they are exposed to the air, so that the difficulty in the transport air can be solved by this kind of mechanism. So in this we have the hollow stem in the case of mangroves. Next slide sir. Next slide sir.
ఎస్ మేడం.
So this is how we have seen. Next slide sir. Next.
కాదా మేడం?
Next sir. Next sir. Next. Okay, only answer ఇది. Okay, so okay sir. So this is the picture ma. So I had told you to make a graph in the observations, no? So here, So how the graph is maintained means you had to time. Okay, this is the time. How many minutes? So how time in hours. So how many hours that rise in temperature is taking place? So this is the okay. So this is the here it was given carbon dioxide concentration. You had to see the temperature. Here you maintain temperature. Okay. So here you had to write down the temperature. So temperature degree centigrade in the thermometer. సో థర్మోమీటర్ లో ఏ విధంగా మనకి ఓకే డిగ్రీ సెల్సియస్ లో ఉంటుందో అలాగే ఇక్కడ యూ హ్యాడ్ టు మెయింటైన్ టెంపరేచర్. సో ఇన్ హియర్ యూ హ్యాడ్ టు మెయింటైన్ ద టైమ్ in hours. Okay, so like this you had to plot a graph. So for every 2 hours you had to plot the graph for 2 hours, 2, 4, 6, like 8, like that you had to note down. So you had to see whether the temperature is increasing or not, whether it is increasing steadily or not. So here in both the cases, the carbon dioxide evolving will also take place in the steadily. Okay, temperature also will rise in a steady manner. There is no such a case of sudden increase in temperatures. Okay, so that thing you had to observe while doing the experiments. Okay, like previous slide, sir. Previous slide, sir.
Madam, okay na?
Okay. So here the difference I had told you how the photosynthesis is releasing the energy. So how the photosynthesis is releasing the energy. Okay, so how the photosynthesis is taking the energy, 6CO2 plus 6H2O. So from the sun it is taking the energy. So this is endothermic reaction. This is a constructive pathway. It is an anabolic process. Glucose is produced here. So this glucose being utilized in the respiration, 6CO2. So in the respiration, the cells will take in the oxygen and they give out the carbon dioxide with the release of energy. So that is why it is called exothermic reaction. As breaking of the glucose molecule is taking place, so it is a catabolic reaction. It is a catabolic reaction. Okay, so that is about the difference between respiration and photosynthesis. Okay. సరే ఇంకా స్లైడ్స్ క్లోజ్ చేయండి సార్, స్టూడెంట్స్ తో ఎంగేజ్ చేస్తున్నాను.
Okay, madam.
సార్ స్టూడెంట్స్ ని అన్మ్యూట్ చేయండి సార్.
Madam, unmute
Hello.
all చేసుకోవచ్చు.
ఓకే మా, if you have any doubts or if you don't understand anywhere you can speak to me. Okay, now you make yours. If you have doubts, those who have the doubts unmute themselves and speak out. రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వండి అమ్మా. డౌట్స్ ఎవరికి లేవా? హలో. Those who have doubts unmute and speak out.
షుగర్ అన్న ఒకటేనా మేడం?
గ్లూకోజ్ మాలిక్యూల్ మీన్స్ ఇట్ ఈస్ ద సింప్లర్ ఫార్మ్ ఆఫ్ కార్బోహైడ్రేట్ మా. ఓకే, షుగర్ అనేది, సో కార్బోహైడ్రేట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ షుగర్. ఓకే, సో కార్బోహైడ్రేట్ అనేది స్టార్చ్ అవ్వచ్చు, గ్లూకోజ్ అవ్వచ్చు, వాట్ ఎవర్ ఇట్ మే బి. ఓకే, దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ షుగర్. సో ఏ రూపంలో స్టోర్ అవుతుంది అంటే షుగర్ రూపంలో స్టోర్ అవుతుంది. ఇట్ మే బి ద గ్లూకోజ్ ఆర్ ఇట్ మే బి ద స్టార్చ్ ఆర్ అదర్ కార్బోహైడ్రేట్. ఓకే,
ఎస్ మేడం.
ఇంకా
మేడం అనబాలిక్ కెటబాలిక్ డిఫరెన్స్ చెప్పండి మేడం.
అనబాలిక్ అంటే ఒక కాంపౌండ్ అనేది సింథసైజ్ అవుతుంది ఆర్ ప్రొడ్యూస్ అవుతుంది అనమాట. ఆ ప్రాసెస్ని అనబాలిక్ ప్రాసెస్ అంటాం. కన్స్ట్రక్టివ్ ప్రాసెస్ అనమాట. కెటబాలిక్ ప్రాసెస్ అంటే గన సో డివైడ్ అయ్యి ఓకే సింప్లీ కీప్ ఇన్ మైండ్ ఓకే అనబాలిక్ ప్రాసెస్లో ఓకే కాంప్లెక్స్ మాలిక్యూల్ సింపుల్గా ఫామ్ అవుతుంది, సింపులర్ అవుతుంది అనమాట, సింపుల్ అవుతుంది అనమాట. కెటబాలిక్ ప్రాసెస్లో ఉన్న సింపులర్ మాలిక్యూలే ఇంకా సింపుల్ అవుతుంది అనమాట. ఓకే సో అక్కడ అనబాలిక్ ప్రాసెస్లో ఏమవుతుంది, సో కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్ నుంచి గ్లూకోజ్ మాలిక్యూల్ అనేది సింథసైజ్ అవుతూ ఉంది, దాన్ని అనబాలిక్ ప్రాసెస్ అంటాము. క్యాటబాలిక్ ప్రాసెస్ అంటే ఏంటి, ఉన్న మాలిక్యూలే బ్రేక్ డౌన్ అయిపోయి ఇంకా సింప్లర్ గా CO2 మాలిక్యూల్ అనేది ఫామ్ అవుతుంది, దాన్ని క్యాటబాలిక్ ప్రాసెస్ అంటాము.
పర్సనల్ గా ఏమైనా ఉంటే అడగండి, టైం అయిపోయింది. మేడం ని కాల్ చేసి
ఇంకేంటి?
వాట్సాప్